So oddly enough, as someone who runs a video production company, I didn't actually go to a school for a film degree. I actually have a business degree, which, to be honest, did very little to prepare me for starting my own business and the challenges and hard decisions I faced along the way. And the problem is, a lot of these decisions early on can lead to problems and more headaches, like, a year to 10 years down the road. So in this video, I'm not going to tell you the keys to making $1 million as some would, but I want to give you 4 pieces of advice that I wish I knew when I started my business years ago. And these tips are here to help ground your business from the start and help to make wise decisions that will help you be ready to take advantage of those big break moments you get. And the last one really is the most important aspect of how I run my business, so stick around. A name is everything. It's the first impression most get of you when they see your content, website, or meet you for the first time. And because of this, it's the first thing you will look to knock out when starting a business. And it many times is decided on too quickly or without a long-term view on it. And when I started my company, it was not called Voyager. It was called Archetype 4 Studios, which is an awful word vomit of a name and one that actually no one knew what archetype actually meant. It changed real fast after I had to keep spelling that word out for people when they asked for my email address. So Archetype 4 Studios turned into Archetype 4, which turned into A4 Media until after a year of that name and a bunch of SEO work put into getting that name out, a larger company also named A4 Media came in and completely knocked us out of any search rankings or anything. So as my business transitioned more into video and I really started doing YouTube content, I spent about 4 or 6 months really taking the time to come up with a name, a goal, a vision of what it could be. And through that came up with a bunch of different names and came out with the name Voyager. And the thing I realized after continuously having to change the name of my company, which is an absolute pain when it comes to legal documents, domain name changes, soft launching the new name to your existing clients, making sure old email addresses still come through, changing all of your social media accounts, logos, and so much more, is that I wish I'd taken a bit more time to look at my industry that I wanted to go into and find a name that was versatile enough to make it through all of that. Now, I initially always wanted my company to have a name that sounded larger than it was because I wanted something I could grow into. A lot of times I see new people getting in, calling their business after themselves, like a lot of photographers. But if you end up meeting with a higher end corporate client and you pull out a business card and like, oh, my business is called Owen's Photography. As unfair as it is, there is a stigma to that and one that can give potential clients an immediate opinion on the scope of what you do and potentially minimize you in their eyes. Now, this is not true for all circumstances, but it does point to what should be a good application for this point in the coming up with a name. When you choose a name for your company, make sure it's easy to spell. It doesn't have any weird pronunciations, that there is no other brand, show, person, etc. that's close to it, that has a domain name available, that it fits what the vision and idea and culture and direction what you want your company to be, but that it also has the potential to be flexible and also something you could expand and create a brand upon later on. Also making sure that in naming it the way you are, you're not trying to be something you're not. There are probably many other points to be made here, but really consider the future implications of what the name means and even get some feedback from other people outside your friend or family group on the name. There are plenty of Facebook groups and places online that can roast you or give you feedback from people who don't know you. And that's our second point. Taking advice from the wrong people. And this is such a hard thing to grapple with as, you're essentially heading into the unknown for the first time. You have no idea where your next project or income is coming from, and you don't know if you can pay rent or a mortgage or a car payment. And so this is a very delicate time starting off that you will desperately be searching for answers on how to solve all of these challenges before you. One thing you have to learn is who to take advice from. And there's a great quote, which in looking up who actually said this, when writing the script, I found that was Kelly Clarkson who said it, but I don't really want to believe that she's the first person that said this. It's essentially never take advice from someone you wouldn't trade places in life with. And to put that into context for a business setting, don't take advice from someone who you would not want to trade places in the industry with. If a family member tries to give you advice and they've never owned a business, started a business, or are even in the same industry you're in, and this is a hard one, take the advice they give you on how to run your company with a massive grain of salt. There's nothing wrong with family or friends, but if they are not doing what you're doing, how can you trust the advice that they're giving you? They many times have no idea the decisions you have to make, how to win over clients, and how to do taxes. I mean, you get the point. The best advice I can give you here is to find others in the industry you can take advice from. Even find other people that are in similar positions to you and compare notes with them. At the end of the day, none of us could do this alone, and a big part of making this all work as a lifestyle and profession for us is fostering a good community of other like-minded people in the industry that you can ask hard questions like, am I charging enough for this video? Or how do I handle this situation? Or Or have you had this weird situation happen before with a client? You bring that to a family member or a friend who, works a 9-to-5 job, and there's nothing wrong with that. But they'll think that charging, let's say, $20,000 to $40,000 for a video project is crazy because they don't understand the work that goes into all of this and the concept of not having a salaried or hourly income. You're both in just different professional worlds, and it's wise to take advice from others who have either walked a similar path as you or that are much farther down the path than you are, and not people outside of it who don't really know what's going on. And this brings us to our next point, and it's something you have to come to terms with while working in the creative industry, that there will always be someone more talented than you, someone always doing something cooler than you're doing, and someone who gets a higher paying project than you do, and you just have to realize that is okay. At the end of the day, natural talent does not necessarily equal success, and you need to remember that. Hard work and working smart at the same time is what makes the difference, which sounds super cliche. I know. I hate the self-help book kind of talk, and that's not what I'm trying to say here. There are so many factors that determine success, and most of them are not how talented you are at filming, editing, etc. Now, there is, of course, a base level of quality that you have to meet in order to actually make it in the industry, and you should always be learning and pushing yourself to get better. So I'm not saying that some talent isn't required, just that you don't have to be the greatest that ever lived. You don't have to be good at everything, and that's fine. It's better to get to know your weaknesses and find others who can help you in those areas than to fixate on those deficiencies in your abilities and not focus on who you are and what your strengths are. Sharpen your strengths and level off your weaknesses. This also applies to the, actual running of your business too. Know when you're in over your head and find credible outside help, especially for taxes. With that said, there's a lot more that determines success than if you are the next Stanley Kubrick or Peter McKinnon, which, speaking of Peter McKinnon, love him or hate him, he knows what he's doing. He lets his personality shine through in everything and is in general, a really fun guy. Is he the best at filmmaking though? No. And he even admits that himself, but he does know who he is, and that leads us to our last point. Know who you are and don't change your personality for a client. Don't change yourself and who you are to fit whatever project or budget that a client's giving you. I found that a lot of people don't understand the corporate environment at times and try to conform too much to what they think they should be doing when working on these jobs. I'm talking about those who decide that because of this job, they need to start wearing matching polos and start handling projects in a certain way than they usually do. So before anyone who likes matching company polos gets upset at me, I'm not saying that you shouldn't do that, just that you shouldn't do it because you think that you're supposed to fit into this mold that every other video production company is in. If that's your personality, you guys can rock those polos, go for it. I hate polos, I'm sorry. This is a little bit of a bias. But if it's not you, and you're just fooling your client into thinking you're something that you're not, kind of a recipe for more stress and probably not an entirely great working relationship in the future. As freelancers or business owners, our clients almost become colleagues and work buddies to a point. So being able to set yourself up in these situations is important for a good long-term relationship with them. And if they don't like you, probably won't work out in the long run, and that's fine. And if you don't like them, it probably won't work out in the long run. So you probably shouldn't try to change yourself so they'll like you. In doing so, you really do avoid trying to twist yourself in the vision of what you want your company to be to just fit inside something, this one project that isn't who you are or what you want to be in the future. And believe me, starting out, that is one of the hardest things to do. Early on, you do take on all the different jobs that you can take. You kind of figure yourself out a little bit. But eventually you do need to kind of move into things and realize which clients are kind of keeping you back and learn how to protect yourself from burning out, and trying to make yourself into something you're not will have that outcome eventually. So again, be yourself and find the clients that like who you are as a person and matches with what your vision is as a company and the creative you're putting out. And some believe that high-end cameras make a big difference, and in some cases in more ways than just owning them. So see here why you should really study Arri cameras even if you'll never own one yourself. It's really another great foundational video for getting started and getting your head straight when starting in the industry.